Okay, so today is going to be a departure from Joust, a temporary departure, because I signed up for a game jam on the One Lone Coder YouTube channel. I need to see, hold on, sorry. I need to pull up this year's game jam. What the heck? Like, hold on one sec. Let me just find the website or whatever. Why? Here. Here. So this is it. I'm gonna bookmark this called Game Jam. So I know I'm already joined in this, but I need to put my stuff in. Shoot. Okay. So there are 300 people in this game jam, and the theme was just released. It's called Weather, and it can be games, applications, demonstrations, all other projects, as long as they're to the theme. So yeah, it's gonna be 7 more days. I guess I should have started this yesterday, but we've got a week. So over the next 7 days, I'm thinking I'm probably going to be focusing on this game jam. So yeah, I'll have to watch. This video didn't come up till yesterday, so I didn't think the theme was announced until yesterday, which maybe it was, but we've got 7 days left. So I'm gonna walk through. Well, actually, first of all, I want to show you guys the game jam from this channel I did, gosh, 2 years ago already. I did a game jam 2 years ago. And I can git clone https. It's www. Maybe it isn't www. Oops. I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah, it's not www. I'm going to say git clone github.com/Jakobins/ and then the repository is the Great Machine. So the Great Machine .git. So I just cloned it. And then now I can change directory into the Great Machine, and I can run the game I did for 2 years ago. Here, I want to pause this because I did some music with it too. It's crazy that this is already 2 years old and I haven't made much progress in terms of game making. But here's my submission for the Great Machine. That was the theme, the Great Machine. So you just control this machine, and you have to catch ideas in the funnel. So like that missed it. That missed it. But if it lands right in the funnel, like right there, that should count. And then the whole idea is you just collect these ideas, and then by the time you get 10, think I did 10. You know, it's not a very... I did this 2 years ago. I'm actually still pretty proud of it. Because it's got like a win state and everything. So if you get 10, then you convert these ideas to a real project, keep up the good work, and keep making things. So yeah, it's just a little game where you control this little character and try to capture the ideas. And then sometimes it's jank, but you know. That was my submission 2 years ago. So I'm hoping to at least do something that complicated or that complex, I guess. One thing is I'm gonna make actually, if I git clone the same, I made a template, Lua template. Should be called Love2D template actually, but I just downloaded that template so that I can start that as the template for our new repo, which we'll have to make a new repo here. Let's just do I get mistakes when I try to make a repository and publish it online or push it to my online repository. I tend to get problems when I do that. So I just try to set up the repositories here on Git just because I have less problems that way. But is this called weather or the weather? Game Jam. It's called weather. Okay. So the repository is called weather for the 2022 one lone coder code jam. It's not called Game Jam, it's called Code Jam. For here, I'll put one lone coder code jam 2022. And then I'm going to create that. And then I can do this. I can just git clone the weather.git. That's okay because it is empty. Then I can cd into my weather, and then I can start putting files in there to do the first commit. But the files, I'm just going to take this Lua template and I'm going to paste everything but this README into our Lua template, or into our weather template, rather. And then I can go through this. So this template I cloned has a select sound and a switch, or more like a selecting sound and then an enter selecting sound. So like change selection and then click on something. So that's change up selection, and then this is actually selection. It's just two sounds to be in there, whatever. I've got one font, one pixelated font that we can use. I've got a couple different play states for our state machine, but let's look into our main Lua. But first of all, I'm just gonna close out of our ostrich logic. And then I want to open this whole folder of weather. And then if I view my sidebar, yep, here we go. So Here we go. I want to take out this trip state. I'm going to keep play state and help state. So I can get rid of trip state and help state. Actually, I want play state and help state. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing a it's just these two. Gosh. I don't think I'm going to be doing a title screen for this game necessarily. I just kind of want to drop us into it. So I will keep the beep and select just in case. I'm going to make another folder called source and put our stuff on that. So it's like, does that make sense? To have our states and our files? I feel like states should be outside of it. Source should be all fonts, pictures, and sounds. And then classes. And then dependencies can go, I guess dependencies can go into source. Okay, so actually we need source on all these. Okay. States. Yeah. Okay. So push, we need this in our main because this is what allows us to full screen it to different resolutions depending on the monitor, you know. So that's I'm using a library that someone wrote called push to handle that, which looks like this, you know. And that allows us to just basically say push start, push finish, and then that'll take care of the screen stuff. Like we have to set up a width, a height, and a window width and a window height, set full screen, that stuff. But this makes it pretty easy. I'm going to put the default state to be the play state, so we just go right into playing the game, whatever we decide that to be. And then I've got, so basically I'm just setting up my virtual resolution, or my computer's resolution here. Set the filter, set the title, and call it weather. Set a font that we can use, give us a table of sounds. So we can play different sounds, set up our screen for our virtual rendering, and then this is a global state machine that holds the different states. So we can toggle the play states by calling a function on this key, like right here. So it takes that global state machine table and it says use the function change, and use the function change on the play state string index. So this will ultimately return our play state. And this state machine was given to us. This is what the base state class looks like. And then this is what classes implementation looks like in Lua. So we've got that. Here is the state machine code to operate a table as a sort of state machine with using those strings like this. Yeah, they're added with a string identifier. So this is super bare bones. This is just like a resolution, getting us to use certain, full screen functions to launch us into a title or a state machine, to render the keys that were pressed, detect escape to exit. So yeah, if we take a look at our play state here, we're not going to be using like any of this stuff. But if you look, this is how you set up a class. You're going to save it as a file, a Lua file. At the beginning of the class, you need to say the name of that class gets assigned a curly braces. So like this is the one thing, it's hard to say this because it's like you have to use this class function. You have to tell it, the game, that play state is now a class. So you have to like basically inherit all of the class functions from a base state. So it's saying like base state is also a class, right? Yeah. And then but this class includes everything that base state has. So I think it's a way of like giving us all these functions for this this class, kind of like, yeah, just inheritance, I think. So inherit all those different changes. Now I don't really want to do anything with this update here because we don't really have any logic just yet for our game. So I'm just going to delete that. I will just render a color. Let's see what this looks like if it works. Pixel TTF fonts should be in source, I believe. So we need dependencies. Really? There's actually this is wrong for what I used to do. I've got this set differently now, but basically I want to say require dependencies, and then that gives us all our dependencies. But I did not set that up like that. Like we should be able to say require dependencies, and it's a .lua file with all of our because look, like right here to this, we want to just be able to say require dependencies, and that has all of this stuff. So let me see if I can say all of this. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to do a new file that is called dependencies.lua. Oh no. How do I just do a new why do I do this? Yeah, new file, and then say dependencies.lua and save that. Yeah, dependencies.lua, but we don't want it to say dependencies.lua. We want it to say all of our dependencies, and this would actually be in constants. So we should also have a constants. constants.lua, file save. But we don't want it to say that. We want it to just have the constants. And then in our dependencies, we need to require our constants. So now, give me a sec here. Instead of dependencies, we're just going to have actually, yeah, I'm going to keep it called dependencies. Source dependencies, source dependencies. Then our states are in state machine. Where are our states though? In a folder called states. Okay. Okay. Then we also need to require our constants. And we don't need a .lua because it knows, Lua will know that that's a Lua file. So we're just going to say that. Let's see. Oh, we need to require our dependencies here. So we need to just require our source, well, /source/dependencies /dependencies. In the dependencies folder, in the dependencies file. Great. Source constant's not found. It's because I spelled it wrong. Source constant's not found. I've got constants. Source/dependencies /constants. Fonts pixel does not exist. Fonts pixel, which is in source now. /source. And then music is also in source. Okay, let's see. Cool. So we've got a play state. Yeah. So instead of saying play state, in our play state, we'll say whether, you know, something very simple right now, or so far. So yeah, I guess we can prototype. We haven't done our first commit yet, so see, and we don't want I don't want that DS store. It should be in my git ignore. I don't remember how to git ignore a DS store. Let me see what my git ignore is on my, oh, come on, where is Jobs? Here. .getignore .dsstore. So I think we just need to make a .getignore in this directory. We can say nano.getignore and then put a .dsstore in there. Write it out. Save. Exit. Status. Okay. So now I can add all that with a message saying first commit welcome play state. Okay. Now can I get push origin main? Get push get. Okay, I need to see what our repository is set to, which is the HTTPS, but we can instead get remote set URL. Is that how we change it to pushing with our key? Yeah, what do we do? Get remote set URL to our we want it to be to our SSH. Yeah, we need to do this. Yeah, we need to make a main branch and then add origin to our, yeah, we need to do this. So we're going to say, see how we're on a random ass commit branch right now. We need to make a main branch. So we're going to say get main, and then says I'm on main. Then get remote, add origin, get at github.com, jacobinsweather.get. Remote origin already exists. See, I didn't think you would ask me this. I thought passwords were obsolete on Git. Okay. I want to say it's git remote dash v get remote set URL to do. Sorry guys, I know this is super boring. Forgot origin, get remote, set URL origin. Okay, now get push. Get push origin main. Okay. I don't like that we've got this weird, is that a commit hash? Yeah, we've got, instead of the name of our branch, we've got the weird commit hash, which I'm not really getting. If I go into my weather directory, yeah, I guess this is just saying my commit hash instead of my main branch. You see that? Main versus this. I don't know what that exactly means. Get remote -v. Okay. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I think we've got our first commit for our weather game. Yeah. See, this should be on like the first or on the main branch. And it does say that, so I don't know. You're still learning Git for sure. Well, yeah, I guess let's prototype some ideas for the game. We've got, it just bugs me that this doesn't say main, but maybe that'll get different as we I don't know why it's telling me to do that. Branch is based on master, but the upstream is gone. Okay. Unset upstream. Whatever, we've got. Okay, it says main now, so I guess I'm okay with that. Did it still run? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what do we do with this prompt? So yeah, just a heads up, like, you know, we're running at 60 frames a second. All we've got is a background and text. Yet, it's taken, you know, this many lines of code. Here's our main. Here's our dependencies, which requires all of these things like this and this, and this, and this, and this, and then our play state, and yeah, our main. So it takes that many lines of code to get basically the bare bones of anything kind of looking on screen, right? But that's okay. That's why I made this template, because it's like, it just gets a little daunting if you have to do it from scratch every single time. With the whole, you got to remember to set up your state machine. You got to set up push, which isn't too hard. It just takes in this stuff, XY with a height, then virtual width, virtual height, and then a window width, window height, then a table of different values. We've got title, we've got a font, we've got some sounds, exit detection, keyboard detection. Yeah. Okay. So what do we do? What do we do with our game? So like if we save as, save weather ideas. One thing I wanted to try, I wanted to maybe do different like biomes of sounds almost. So like if you walk to the mountain area, you hear wind and birds. If you go to the forest, might be mountains is kind of same as forest, but it's more so animals and bugs more so than birds. And then there's maybe a water area with splashes, running water. Then maybe there's a maybe there's what else? Like I'm thinking of what different weather can sound like. Weather can be windy. It could be, I mean, rain, snow. I guess you can't really hear snow. But I guess it can be rainy forest, windy mountain, water. Water isn't really weather, but it's kind of like a sunny day. Birds chirping and stuff. Just with less wind. And then I'm thinking up here is like frozen like wind. And then kind of like a rainy forest. And then a runny water, sunny day, and birds. Those are kind of three different weather biomes. Maybe we stick with only a couple like that so we don't get too stretched thin. I was thinking it might be interesting to do I don't know if this is possible yet, but I've been wanting to experiment with it, which is to have different tracks playing for the game, but depending where your player's standing, it kind of live fades out different tracks depending on your location. So like if you walk up, you're going up to the mountains, which is more windy. If you're walking over to the forest, it's more rainy. If it's over down by the corner, it's like sunny day and birds. And then there's like, yeah, maybe a stream place. And then you can kind of just listen to the different sounds depending on where you're standing and hear the difference in sounds. Like I don't know if that's possible to kind of do a mix like that in Lua, but I want to try to figure it out because I think that'd be fun. So I think for now, I like this idea of kind of having a little character that walks to different biomes. And then we'll have basically different ambient tracks to sort of blend in depending on the X and Y position of our character. Does that make sense? Like if it's down at the bottom, you don't hear any of the wind, but if you climb up to the top of the mountain, it gets louder and louder and louder and louder than loudest. But then to interpolate it over time, so you can kind of be walking from the mountains over to the stream, over into the rainforest, or, you know, just hear those different sounds like that, maybe. So yeah, I guess the first thing to figure out is, can we live control a value that sets the volume of these playable sounds? That's the first thing to kind of detect. Now, let me look at like documentation if this says love 2D set volume, something like that. Yeah, source.set volume. So it's very easy. It takes in a playable sound. You run the function set volume on it and set it to anywhere from 0 to 1. So okay. So yeah, this is kind of something that I feel like would be useful to use, is if you have a sound effect and a track, you can set each one to be a percentage, so you can fill in, hey, fill in my music full volume, but my effects at 0.75. Times it by our master volume to get that consistent value that we're scaling by. So it's kind of like a mix. This volume is kind of like a mix. What do you want the mix to be? And then multiply it by the master output. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so I guess the question is, can we use this set volume in the update with delta time loop instead of the love.load loop? And then if that's the case, we can control music volumes and sound volumes based on values. So I think the first thing I want to see is a little player character that we can just control. So you know, we don't really have a class just yet, but we can say it's almost like we would want a class. Yeah. Let me make, I want to make a player class because I want to encapsulate some information like an X, a Y, a width, and a height. So I'm going to hit new file and save this as player.lua. I'm going to save it in our dependencies. Get weather source dependencies. Okay. We're going to say player gets class, braces like that, curly braces, and then we need to, in our dependencies, require our class called player. Okay. So our player class has three functions, right? It needs a init function to initialize the values and the members. It needs an update function to update game state on a player on a frame-by-frame basis. That takes in delta time. Then we need to render to the screen. Now, our init takes in four arguments, an x, a y, a width, and a height for our player character. And we're going to set its x to that parameter. We're going to set its y to that parameter. I guess when it gets passed in, it'll be called an argument, but it's called a parameter for now. Width gets width parameter, and height gets height parameter. Now, our update function is literally just to check for input. Left.keyboard was pressed. If left was pressed, we want to do something. If left was pressed, we want to do something. If right was pressed, we want to do something. Up is pressed, we want to do something. Then we want to say our x gets, we also need this to have a dx and a dy, which gets set to 0. That's just velocity, that's just change in x or change in y, so that we can define in terms of its current x and current y, like this. Current x gets its current x updated by its x velocity, and same with self.y gets updated to be its current y plus its y velocity. We do that every frame, and then if it's left, we're going to say self.x gets its current x minus 1, meaning it'll move left. And that's probably too fast, but we'll see. Our self.x will get its current x plus 1 if right is held. And this will get messed up if they do multiple inputs, but we're not going to worry about that just yet. We're going to assume they're going to play nicely for now. Because with this loop, oh, this is up. This is down. And then we're gonna render a love dot draw dot rectangle. Is that a real thing? We need to say love dot draw rectangle in fill mode, passing it all those arguments, but we also want to set the color so it's not just the same color as the background of that. I think it is love.graphics.rectangle or love.draw rectangle. Love.rectangle. Love.graphics.rectangle. Yeah. And then takes into fill mode. Okay, so it is love graphics rectangle. Love.graphics rectangle, love.graphics.set color to be, I guess, just black. And then we're updating our Y position, and actually, yeah, we don't need this just yet. We're just going to be actually I'm going to set its X velocity. No, yeah. I'm going to assign it a velocity. I want this not to be pressed, but is down for that continuous input. It's like I need to flush the dx and dy value if nothing's pressed, right? So like I don't know if this is necessary, but we're gonna see. We're looking to have a rectangle that we can move left, right, up, and down that we initialize here as a player. Player gets an instantiation of our player class. And in that player class, we give it an X, which is going to be left side of the screen, a Y, which is going to be virtual height shifted by the self.height. I don't know if we can do that just yet. XY width and a height, I'll just give it 20 and 20. So this should give us a black square in the bottom left, hopefully. And then we need to update our player. Which we do. We need to say player update here. And then player render down here. And then this line of code will run our render code in our player, which should give us the square at its position. But let's see if any of that is working. Source dependencies, player not found. Did I not save it? I did the old switcheroo. Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing our character. We're initializing it, giving it stuff. Let me see if changing it to white does anything different. Just trying to see that square. Okay. So we've got a little square we can move. So it's almost like if in our constants we have a speed, player speed. Could say player speed gets, let's say 3, and then in our player we modify this by our player speed. Our, our velocity gets set to be -1, and our velocity gets set to be positive. Oh, here, negative player speed, positive player speed, negative player speed. Okay, and then yeah. If we don't reset our dx, does that screw us up? Yeah, if we don't reset it, it just gives us a trajectory. Actually, that's kind of fun. So I was right in needing to flush that. But I want to say if this was, let's see if this changes it. Because now it's not checking for continuous input, it's checking on previous input, like input on that frame. Let's see if that changes it. Okay, yeah, I guess we just need to set our dy to 0. Like, give us a dy and then reset it. To 0 after you render it. And then, now that we have, yeah, we don't want the was pressed. We want is down. Sorry. Now that we have a position, an X position for our player character and a Y position, now we can hopefully try to see if we can tether the master volume to a variable. Like, it's like we have to convert our Y position or X position. Like, let's just worry about X position right now. Like, if I move my character all the way to the right, I want a soundtrack to be as loud as it gets. And if it moves back to the left, it goes all the way to mute. So, like, can we figure out how to do that? So we would need to take the width of the virtual resolution, divide it up into... We basically need to convert our X position into a number 0 to 1 inclusive. And then set our volume to that. So I'm gonna speed up our player speed. I'm gonna see if the is down is working now better. Yeah. So if you imagine that like a slider bar, we don't want to go off screen, so we'll limit that, but we'll treat that as our like volume slider bar for testing. And then here I want to say that self.x gets the... Gosh, how do we do this? Okay. Yeah, how would we do this? We want to say we want to clamp our X position. So how do we do this? If we say math.min and feed it two values, one of which is the virtual width shifted by our player one width, and the other number is your updated dx. That'll clamp it to the right side of the screen. That won't solve going to the left, but let's say that this is the same deal where we say update that location, but don't pass virtual height minus your player height. Otherwise, so that should stop us from going off the bottom of the screen and from the right of the screen, but not the left and the top, if I'm imagining this correctly. And it would help if I spell virtual correctly. So it does stop us from going off the bottom and the right, which is good, but we can still go off the top of the left and the top. So how do we fix that? We just have to say another one like this is Now this clamps the bottom, and then we need to clamp it to the left side. And I think we can do, you can say self.x gets the bigger of two values. No. I don't know how we do that. I don't know how we do this. It's like if self.dx, no, if self.x is ever negative, which it also needs to be smaller than the player width. No, wait, no, yeah, just smaller than 0. If it's smaller than 0, then our self dx is 0. Like, stop giving us velocity. And then if self.dy, let me see, if self.y is smaller than 0, we're off the top of the screen. If that's the case, we need to not only set our dy to 0, but we also need to set our self y to be 0. And same with this. And then fuck. It's confusing, I think, but maybe that'll work. Basically, we're saying if our dx made our x position or y position go off the screen, take away our velocity and just set us to the side of the screen. So it should clamp us now. Not exactly clean, but it's like it sets our, I don't know. I'm curious to what our I don't know a better way of doing this. I feel like velocity is not the way to do this. But if we take out velocity here, does that do us any favors? See, it's like, fuck. Oh God, I'm so fucked. I don't know why it looks like it's freaking out when we go off the side like that. I want it to just clamp like this side does, you know, at the bottom. It's like, would something like this work? So like upon left input, if you're smaller than 0, reset to the, take away your velocity, set your X position, and then if right is down, then if self.x plus no, hold on. If the right side of our player becomes greater than the virtual width, then we want to not only flush our dx, but set our x to be the virtual width shifted by our player width. Otherwise, update its dx with positive player speed. Then, if up is pressed, then if self.y is smaller than 0, then we're gonna flush our upwards velocity, and we're gonna set our y to be equal to 0, which is the top of the screen. Otherwise, just update our dy, and then if down is held and our self y plus our player height, the bottom of our screen, bottom of our character is greater than the virtual height, then we need to set our y velocity to 0, set our actual y to be equal to virtual height shifted by player height. Otherwise, just update our delta y. And then we're going to clamp it and update maybe we'll try this. Still mess up. I don't know, dude. It's kind of frustrating that I can't figure this out. How to just clamp a square. You know, it's like I'm just baffled. If we don't use delta y or delta x, what do? We say if love.keyboard is down, let's do left and right first. If left is down, self.x gets its current x plus a positive player speed. Okay. Now, if I already messed that up, we need to subtract player speed if we're moving left, add player speed if we're moving right. So this should give us left and right, but we can go really off the screen. So it's almost like once we've updated that, we need to say if self.x is greater than the virtual width oh my god, it's if it's x is greater than the virtual width minus its width, then it's off the right side of the screen, in which case we need to set our x to be equal to virtual width minus self.width. Then we need to say if self.x is smaller than 0, then we need to set our x to be equal to 0. So now we should be clamped on the left and right side. Okay. Yep, we can't go past that. And we can't go past that. Okay. Now, for up and down. So if up is down, then our y will get its current y shifted negatively by player speed. And if down is down, we'll get our y plus a positive player speed. And then we need to do the checks and say, hey, if our self.y is greater than the virtual height shifted by our self's height, then we really need to set our y to be equal to the virtual height shifted by our self height. Then if our y is smaller than 0, then we need to set our y to 0. So now we should be clamped on all directions. If ry is less than, see, this isn't right. If ry is less than 0, meaning it's gone off the top of the screen, set ry equal to 0. If ry is greater than the virtual height minus the self height, then set ry to the virtual height minus self height. So now we're clamped. So now I can finally try to use this set volume parameter here. I want to add everything with a message saying have basic player control for testing set volume function. Okay, I'm gonna get push our changes, and then basically I'm gonna set, we're gonna do, it's gonna sound awful, but we've got, actually maybe we'll just, I'm going to set this sound. I'm going to say in our play state, no, in our player state. Actually, yeah, it should be in play state. I'm going to say this set looping. How do you do it? Sounds, beep. How do you do it? The table is sounds, right? The index is beep. Then we're going to use the set looping function to be true. And then we're going to sounds beep play. So this should play the beep sound looping over and over and over and over, and it should be real annoying. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Sweet, that's what I wanted. So there is so the thing is, our screen is 1280 long, so that means if our player's x needs to be a value between 0 and 1, 1 being 1280 minus player height. How do we do this? We need to say, we need to divide this amount of pixels by the amount of samples. Gosh, what do we even do? Basically, we need to see where oh fuck, I don't know what we need to do. So like, let's say if we're half the screen, 640, if our x is 640, that divided by our 1280 gives us a perfect 0.5, which is half volume. Whereas if our x is 1280, we divide that by 1280, that means our volume would be max at 1280. And if we were at 0, it'd be 0 over 1280. So we need to take our current x position, divide it by our pixels, and then that is the float that we can pass into our set volume function. But first, let's just see if we can have this, I want to say it's just a It's just a member called tween. I'm calling it, setting it to 0 because we start at 0. And then I'm saying we're going to set our tween value here by saying self.tween gets the current x position divided by our virtual width. And then I want to print this value out. So maybe I say love.graphics.print, and it takes in a printable self.tween, but the thing is we need to convert that to a string. Here we can say tween gets, or concatenated to a string, because it's a int. We need to convert it to a string so we can print it out with printf at 10 and 10 or something. And then we'll see if the tween is looking like it's functioning right. Let's do 30 and let's turn off our looping for now, just because we don't need that beeping at us. I'm looking for the tween value to be 0 on the left side and grow to 1 by the time we get to the right, which since we didn't offset by our player width, we're getting a little wrong on that, but we're going to say it's almost like this needs to be self.x plus self.width. Would that still give us 0 on the left side? I don't think so. Yeah, no. What does that give us? Oh, that's way off. I think we need to shift us because the reason it's not 0, the reason it's not 1 is because self.x never gets to be exactly, oh here, we would need to shift this by self.width. And then that should give us at least the right side correct, but I don't know about the left side. Yeah, -20. What the fuck? I feel like we might need to do virtual width minus self.width. Then divide that. Still messes up our 0, huh? No? Doesn't mess up our 0. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted. 0 all the way to the left, 1 all the way to the right. Now the question is, can we tie this tween value to our set volume function to get a dynamic audio change in our beep? And if that's the case, then we can move along with our prototype, because something like that could be possible, you know? So I'm going to set the volume here of our sounds beep. Set volume. And the volume I'm setting it to is a number between 0 and 1, 1 being all the way on, 0 being off, to a tween player instantiation in the tween field. And this should be looking for a number, so that should work. So let's make sure looping is turned back on. In our play state, yeah. We got looping on, we set the volume, then we play. Let's try it. So it should be quiet on the left. Isn't that awesome? So the idea is we can have the mountain up here, right? So when our Y gets higher, we fade in a windy track because you're up in the mountains. Maybe add some particle effects for wind. When you're down in the corner, it's all nice and quiet or whatever. You can go over to the mountainside. You know, we can do we've got mountain with winds and frozen words up high. We've got rainy rainforest. We've got a river running, and then a sunny day with birds. So kind of like, I'm thinking of like a Mario overworld sort of world where you kind of walk through these different biomes and hear the different sounds. It's kind of like the overworld, and then maybe we make as many levels as we can of just different because I'm liking this as like the overworld, not really the entire game, although I do like it in the sense of you can kind of use it meditatively, you know, just be like, I'm going to check out what it sounds like if I'm halfway up the ladder to the mountains, but I'm still in the area of the waterfall or something like that, you know. But I'm glad that what I wanted to test, like my question, I didn't know that you could set the volume of different stuff dynamically, which this makes that idea possible. So now I'm convinced I can pull off at least some of that idea. So yeah, we've got a good start. You know, we've got an idea for this overworld with interactive sound changing to the different biomes, and then hopefully we can do different mini games for different weather typed biomes. So like have the overworld and then go do the mountain level, go do the forest level, do the water level, the summer level, or whatever we call it. But that's a good start. So get add with everything in a message saying working dynamic volume adjustment for sounds. Walking dynamic volume adjustment for sounds. Cool. Then get P. And if you guys want to play this on your machine, you can download Love, like I did. It's love2d.org. It's open source, and then you can either git clone. You can literally just git clone the repo. You know, here in weather, you can git clone right here. Git clone this. I'm not going to do it because I already have it, but all you do is say git clone, paste in this, and then it'll make the directory with all the files, And then once you have that, it would look like this, weather. Then you just take the folder, drop it on Love2D, and then it'll run. Yeah. So that's if you want to play it. Thanks for bearing with me. Kind of a slow episode, but we've got, we started a new project and we've already solved a problem that I was hoping to be able to figure out. So, I think it's a good success. We already pushed to our repo, so I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.